Hello there. Welcome to episode 43 of Bow and Blade, a podcast brought to you by medievalist.net, your home for all things medieval on the internet. Bow and Blade gives you a seat at the bar as scholars of medieval warfare go beyond the Wikipedia articles to talk about the debates and the questions that we're working on today. I'm Michael Livingston, Distinguished Professor at the Citadel, the Military College of South Carolina.
And I'm Kelly DeVries, Distinguished Visiting Professor at the Air Force Academy and Professor of History at Loyola University in Maryland. Hey, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year indeed. Yeah, we're actually recording this on New Year's Day. It'll be a couple weeks from now when y'all hear it, but we're doing it.
May 2024 be better than 2023.
2024. And 2025 even better than that. Like, let's just, progress. Baby.
Progress, baby.
43 episodes in, and here we are.
Wow. Yeah, congratulations on that, too. 2 more from Q&A. So...
Yes. So, folks, get those questions in. I believe, Kelly, you were saying we just got a question in.
Yeah, we just got a question yesterday
or something.
And
awesome.
Like I've got a couple that come in, and since our last Q&A, we may be doing a few shows. If you don't get if your question doesn't get talked about, we'll bring it up the next time. So
yeah, we just put it. I have a document. They're all in the hopper.
They're all in the hopper.
We just go through them.
Yeah, we put them in a whole bunch. We mix them together, and they bake them a little bit, and it comes out some weird cake.
A Q&A cake.
A Q&A cake, yeah.
Q&A cake. A quake? I don't know. So getting those in. Yeah, for sure.
By all means. What you drinking tonight? This gives us a little more than last one, which was in Scandinavia. There's not a lot of diversity in Scandinavian adult beverages. It seems the Vikings were pretty much I think the only people we would have had less choice is the Mongols. What are you going to have? Mare's milk. Okay, mare's good. Milk. Well, I'm having mare's milk too.
I bailed and went with a Scotch last time.
You did. Cheating.
This time I love Italian reds. I know you do as well.
Yeah, I do as well.
So this is definitely a vino kind of time. And I figured good Tuscan red.
I think you're right. A good Tuscan red. Maybe something Reserva, but it's got to be a Vino Rosso, just because of the man we're talking about. One of the protagonists here today is Barbarossa.
Yeah, red beard.
I like him already. Well, we bearded folk have to stick together.
Yeah. So y'all can't see it on your end, but as we log into these into the show to record everything, there's a sort of where your name goes, and mine is just Mike. That's what it always says. Kelly changes his every episode. So this time he's Kelly Barba Blanco. So
True.
He's Kelly Whitebeard.
Yeah, Whitebeard. I think it's more white than it is gray right now. So
I'll friggin' love it, man. Love it. I'm so boring. I'm so boring. I always log on. What's Kelly this week? And I'm just Mike. There I am.
Mike. Yes.
Can't do anything about it.
Mike.
Yeah, here I am.
Sounds like a Monty Python skit.
Plain Jane. So we're doing an Italian battle. It's a really important battle that like a lot of people haven't heard about.
Yeah.
This is a bit like we did Bouvines. Same kind of a lot of import in that battle, but not a lot of folks have heard of it, and probably less have heard of this one.
Yeah. Although it shouldn't be. Barbarossa is such an important character. Frederick Barbarossa, Frederick I, Emperor Frederick I, such an important character, and then eventually end up drowning on the way to the Third Crusade as the 68. Was he 68 on his way? And that's like I was reading through his massive military bibliography, just campaign after campaign after campaign after campaign. He went on the Second Crusade, his Third Crusade. This is his fifth Italian invasion when Legnano happens, the Battle of Legnano.
He's a busy guy.
Yeah, he kind of defies the odds. William the Conqueror really came nowhere near the amount of military activity that Frederick Barbarossa did, and they both died about the same time. So here we think about the Conqueror. Same thing with Mehmed the Conqueror. This guy he does more than both those together probably.
Yeah, well, I mean, it doesn't do you a lot of good when probably the most memorable thing you did was drown crossing a river. Like it doesn't
So
that doesn't do your reputation a lot of good.
no,
That kind of
no,
overrides and sticks in the memory. But yeah, Frederick Barbarossa was far more than just a failed swimmer.
yeah, that's a failed swimmer.
Far
Hey,
far
to
more.
some, I mean, he's supposed to come back. He's supposed to be in a mountain somewhere, and will awaken to come and save Germany.
Uh,
And of course, we know with German history that's not been necessary. I mean, they don't have had any problems whatsoever. Uh,
yeah, he keeps missing the boat on that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
As he
so
did his initial swim,
he
missed the
missed
boat.
the boat. Hey, thanks everybody.
Yeah, here all week.
We're awake. Yeah, classes start soon. Gotta get ready
Oh,
for it.
geez, don't even say that. No.
So, yeah, so let's start actually. Let's rewind. Uh, what the heck is the Holy Roman Empire?
Yeah,
Because it's
yeah. I mean,
because it's not holy and ain't Roman. It's not an empire.
no, that's what was it Voltaire says that, doesn't
Yeah,
he? It's not holy, it's not Roman, it's not an empire, and it was at his time more than this. Rome was actually included in the empire
originally, yeah.
originally. This is the remnants of the partible inheritance of Charlemagne. Although he only had one son outlive him, Louis the Pious. Louis had three out of four sons outlive him, and of course he legitimized Charles the Bold. But his oldest one, Lothar, got everything in the middle. So you got the East Franks with one son, and the West Franks with another. And that's France and or Germany and France. But then right down the middle, Low Countries, Switzerland, straight down all the way to Rome was Lothar's inheritance, the eldest son, and he becomes the first emperor of that part of the world that we will, um, for a moment, call Lotharingia. But that's where we later on his grandsons will fight wars against the grandsons of the East um, of the East Frankians, and so Germany is born somewhere in the next 1,000 years, which means it's not only been around next 1,000 years, 100 years. It's only been around 200 years by the time Barbarossa's made emperor there.
Yeah, and this, just look if you think about a map, this middle uh, kingdom, since China there or even Egyptian, but this middle
Yes.
kingdom of Charlemagne's inheritance, right down the middle
Mhm.
of Europe, and honestly, if you look at a map, there's like the big blob of France, big blob of Germany, and then like in between, things are kind of a mess even today
They
on the
are a
map,
mess. Yeah,
and
they are a mess.
that's kind of like that. All this sort of starts with this,
Yeah,
um, all this
yeah.
fragmentation down the middle, and part
Well,
of it is driven by there's lots of factors for this, but one factor is, shall we say, what, taller than the other factors?
I
Is
think a
that
taller, higher
higher?
in altitude. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right in the middle of it is this big mountain range,
Mm.
and yeah, the Alps. I always like the fact that when teaching medieval military history, you can't go over the Alps, guys. At a certain moment in time, they all want to think, "Hey, look, we can fly over the Rocky Mountains." Yeah, well, medieval people didn't fly. They had to go through mountains, and consequently, Spain and the Spanish kingdoms are left largely alone, as is Italy. Even though there's this claim that goes all the way back to Charlemagne. When Charlemagne's crowned Holy Roman Emperor in 800, that passes down to Louis, then passes down to Lothar, and Lothar sets it up, and so Italy seems to be a prize, except it's hard to get there if you're up in the north.
Yeah, I mean that is the real problem, right? You know, if you, I control this area, or whichever one you're in, you also control the other one, at least in theory. But yeah, in practical terms, you can't just like it's not down the block. It's over a wall, a
It's a
really
lot.
tall wall.
It is. I mean, I love. I've gone through the Alps a number of times, and the Austrians just said, "Oh, F it," and made tunnels right through all the
Right.
mountains. So the next 100 miles you're in a tunnel.
Yeah.
But you still go over the Alps in Italy from France and Switzerland, and it's a beautiful country. There's no doubt about it. But I always think of Hannibal with the elephants and Caesar's taking his legions north and south over the Alps, and here we have Frederick Barbarossa doing the same. It isn't done very often. I mean, we can count the number of emperors that had gone before Frederick Barbarossa after Lothar's death, probably on less than one hand of fingers, because Otto the Third goes down. The one they want to go down because that's where they get crowned emperor. It has to be done by the Pope, and popes don't like going north of the Alps either. So that's it. It's important. Milan becomes important because it is really at the base of all the Alpine passes, and we're going to see Milan take a huge role in this in the rebellions against this emperor, but pretty much any emperor. They don't like they like controlling the Alps themselves.
I don't know that Milan likes being controlled by anybody. Period.
No, I don't think so.
Even today, I think the Milanese are pretty.
Yeah.
We're fine on our own. Thank you very much.
That Sforza Palace today looks like it'd keep an army out of it, and it was built up in the Renaissance, let alone that the remains of Maximian's palace as well. There, Milan is a very very important city, and I was surprised the other day to find out it's not even Italian originally. It's a Gallic city. It was found by the Gauls and then go down to Rome and sack it in the fourth century BC. But uh, it's an important part, but it's hard to get there.
Yeah, and I mean part of the reason we are amazed by like you mentioned Hannibal crossing the Alps. I mean it's because that's so difficult, right? I mean that this isn't there's no highway. We're just gonna like tootle on over like yeah there's roads, but they're really tall. The weather's really bad a lot of the time.
Yeah,
And you try to think supply trains and all that kind of stuff. Like it's very very difficult.
yeah,
And so, if you can go around them, try and go around them. There's not a lot of ways around the Alps. Geography is what it is. And so, yeah, this kind of cuts through the middle of one political entity on paper, which makes it almost inevitable, perhaps, that there's going to be splits, right? That the South and the North are going to kind of like you're on the other side. We don't really care what you say.
yeah.
Come and make us, that kind of thing.
The fact the Battle of Legnano is fought and the fifth time that the Alps are gone through with the army of Frederick Barbarossa just gives you an indication that even this really strong emperor up there is he's not going to come down. He's not going to be there in Italy every moment of the day because he's got to go handle something up in the north because everybody time Frederick goes south, Henry the Lion or somebody will rise up in the north and threaten his peace up there. So you can't be keep this is not an escalator between the two
Yeah,
the two places.
yeah. And once,
But just to give you an idea, I mean, after Henry the Fourth, who came down, and Henry V come down once. There isn't anybody for almost 100 years. No emperor for 100 years. The two predecessors to Frederick Barbarossa do not come south of the Alps into Italy. So I think what's also inevitable is we get sovereignty in those Italian cities, and that's going to eventually lead to the Renaissance, to a lot of independence, a lot of wealth, a lot of other things. So this arrangement was pretty good for the Italian cities as well.
Yeah, it definitely is a kind of, out of sight, out of mind, when the emperor's on their side of the north of the Alps. And things are meanwhile economically doing real well, right?
Yeah,
On the
yeah,
south side, right? The rise of Venice and Milan and Florence, like these, you have these, rising, as you said, city states, whatever you want to call them, the sort of herbs that are popping up, and they're doing very well.
oh yeah.
Um, making a good time of it, which is great for them. But of course, also then, the Holy Roman Emperor is like, well, that's mine though too. Yeah,
Yeah,
well, you didn't
yeah.
make it, like we did it. Like, what are you doing? So on both sides, this is just not going to go well.
No.
And I said,
Well, and just think of the number of taxes he's losing. Because, do you think anybody below the Alps where the emperor isn't there is going to say, oh, yeah, we had a bad harvest this year.
yeah,
We're going to pay like 10% of what you owe. Come get it.
yeah, yeah. Prove us otherwise. Yeah. So this was a almost a perpetual kind of crisis problem, and sometimes it wasn't a sort of violent crisis. Sometimes it was a very violent crisis.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, when this transpires with Frederick Barbarossa, it's even more complicated. Just because, I mean, it's related, but the Guelfs and the Ghibellines. Man, where do we start with the Guelfs and the Ghibellines?
Yeah,
Like,
think what else is given. Think political parties that hate each other. Oh, you
oh,
don't
that's
have to
easy.
think too
Okay,
much for that.
okay,
Yeah,
that's
that's
easy.
good. That's good. The Guelphs are those who favor the papacy having more of a secular role than or secular governance role, and the Ghibellines favor the emperor having that role.
Yeah, I really love that simplicity of that, Kelly. That's good. Attaboy,
Yeah.
Barba Blanco. Uh, yeah. So in
All
the
right.
absence of the immediacy of the emperor being there in charge, many people were like, "How about we just do what the Pope says? He's here and is like kind of important. Pope, pretty big deal. So how about he just becomes sort of like a more secular ruler, take care of stuff here, and then other people are like, no, that's not the way anything's supposed to work. He's not supposed to be Caesar, right? Render under Caesar was Caesar. Render like that's not good at all. We have a dude. He's on the other side of the mountains or whatever, but that's the dude. And I like your sort of association with like political parties, because this is the people who are having this fight are all South.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so it becomes this
They,
kind of civil war, really.
Yeah, I mean, it technically begins because Frederick Barbarossa actually has the Welf family as his mother's family, and the family that originates Ghibellines come out of his father. So in Germany, they all settled by the fact that the emperor is both. In the South, they would say, no, the emperor is only on this side. He's only on the Ghibelline side because the Pope is the Guelph side, and that's the way we're going to see it. But anybody in the town wanted the papacy to be in control because they knew they could buy the papacy off very easily. The emperor was always mountains mountains away, so that was easy. As long as there is no emperor, you can pretty well run your own. The countryside, the knights, the lords of the countryside, they favored the Ghibellines and they favored the emperor, and they tried to collect his taxes. And they tried to do everything, but if he wasn't there, that was the thing.
Yeah. So you've got a political dynamic between North and South that kind of metastasizes into a political dynamic within the South, within what we now kind of call Italy, right? Northern Italy, especially, in which, you know, the cities versus the country, even within cities, some cities more favored one than the other, depending on their relationship with the Pope or their relationship with the Emperor. And so you got now cities are against each other. They're having domestic issues. It really becomes chaotic, and all of it with like religious edge to it too.
Yeah, well, it has a religious edge and it has an imperial edge because within all of this, I mean, this all comes out of Charlemagne getting crowned by the Pope. You know, the propaganda that came out of the papacy is that Charlemagne recognized the papal political sovereignty, and the propaganda that came out of the empire was that Charlemagne showed up on Christmas Day, was given the crown, and that he really didn't need it, and the Pope kind of just gave it to him, and so the empire was the correct political sovereignty. Let the Pope worry about what happened in the next life and getting there, and the Emperor worrying about what's happening in this life. But it's it's kind of fun in looking at this and to recognize just the strength that is lies in every different issue and every different and like you said, the cities themselves. Venice and Milan probably richer than any place except for maybe Constantinople at this point. There may be Paris, but those are two cities within a proximity, a pretty close proximity that are really, really wealthy. And then you've got Florence coming up, and you've got Naples and several other Italian cities that are following on their wealth footsteps, if you will.
Yeah, and they don't all get along with each other either. So yeah,
Never, never. Still, they're all in Italy now, but yeah, if you're in Italy and you're with Florentine, don't go to Siena.
they will have words.
They will have words, yes.
Yeah. So that, I mean, so again, we have a pretty dynamic political background. Frederick Barbarossa comes on the scene.
Yeah.
Frederick
Elect.
Barbarossa, a very strong-minded individual.
Yeah. The emperors are elected in Germany. He's elected king of Germany first. And that's a very different system. I mean, just to have, because he's not the dynastic son of the former emperor. They bypassed him. So Frederick kind of comes out because he's already strong and powerful.
And is willing to flex that.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
Very willing to
yeah,
flex that, and is a fairly um, yeah, militaristic minded guy.
yeah,
I'm going to
yeah,
flex my power, and how am I going to flex my power? With an army.
yeah.
That's how I'm going to do that.
I'm
And
gonna do it.
as you said, kind of at the beginning, I mean, he's been on all these crusades, all these fights, all these. He's an experienced dude. Really quickly,
Very quickly, yeah,
really quickly in
very
his life.
quickly. And part of it is because he I think I was going to say no. This is flippant. Part of it is because he has a red beard. He's got to be fiery. He's got a red beard. No, part of it is just that I think he at that moment he's the strongest man on the block, and he's the biggest one in the cell block, and he just knocks everybody around until they follow him, and you follow success in the Middle Ages. If you're a lord or even a knight or even a foot soldier, you're going to want to follow success because that brings you success, brings you wealth, and at least keeps you out of the fields.
Yeah, and yeah, he's having tactical success, right? Good strategic success, but also amazing logistical success.
Hmm.
He is
Hmm.
somebody who has an organizational mind. Reminds me of a lot whenever I think of Frederick Barbarossa. I think of a sort of Napoleon figure, right? Somebody
Yeah,
who is
yeah,
having all these, like it's this amazing move on the field, right? It's that, wow, that was a really tactically brilliant decision, but it's also, Napoleon, like, well, you know what? Let me remake the road structure
yeah,
because it's
yeah,
going to enable me to move forces faster. Like that kind of like long term thinking. Barbarossa's that kind of mind.
yes,
Um,
yes, and he has to be because this isn't a man who says, "Let's just go south and see what there is." He knows the Alps are there, and he takes an army more than any other emperor. Takes army through the Alps and back and forth and so forth, and clears up the bandit problem. because they're always in the mountains too. And Milan has profited from the fact that they get pilgrims that are at the end of the come in and they're needing to buy things, needing to buy supplies because they've had them all stolen as they went through the Alps. We're on our way to Rome.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. So you got this again. He's a force of nature. He really is. This is our second week in a row really dealing with somebody like that. Last week it was Harold Hardrada, um, and what a force of nature Hardrada was in a very very different way.
in a very different
I
way.
think
Yeah, yeah.
Hardrada is a force of nature because he just truly is kind of like I don't know, crazy. I'm just gonna go over there. If somebody's there, I'm
Yeah.
fighting them. That's what I'm doing. I'm going over there. Barbarossa.
Barbarossa really saw himself as Charlemagne.
Yeah.
I mean, he goes. The Aachen Dome, which is brilliant. The Aachen Church is redone. He brings painters in from the Byzantine Empire to redo the Aachen throne, and in fact, the reliquary with Charlemagne's head. I always say, so who does this look like? This silver head, silver bust with this bright gold beard on it. It doesn't look like Charlemagne.
Looks
It
like
looks
our
a lot like
boy.
our man Fred. Yeah,
Yeah, he's got this kind of long term political eye to stuff, but again he does have the military stuff, does that very well. Really incredible figure that we kind of I don't think hear enough about. Um, and I'm not even really sure why we don't talk about Frederick Barbarossa more, but we don't, and that's a shame.
it is a shame. And remember that open Q&A we had at Nick Morton up at Leeds, and asked the question was asked because I'd thrown it out there of what if Barbarossa makes it to Jerusalem or the
Oh yeah,
to Aachen. Does Richard Lionheart and Philip Augustus recognize him? Man, I think Nick was right in saying, yeah, they would.
yeah. I mean,
He's the emperor.
he's the big man on the block. I mean, it would have been fascinating.
It is,
Those
yeah.
because
One
those
of
two
those
guys
what
are
ifs.
not exactly gentle souls. Like the
No,
egos in that room. But even among those egos, yeah, I think you're like, yeah, but that's Barbarossa. Like,
that's Barbarossa.
uh, but yeah,
And
but
and
he can't swim.
everybody thought of him that way except the Italians.
Except for these northern Italians, part of the northern Italians, right? Part of the northern
Part of
Italians
the
do.
the
Uh,
Milanese, yeah, for sure. In this case, with
uh,
Legnano.
Others do not. And so, yeah, we end up with a situation where the emperor's got to come down, and we got to put things to rights. Like y'all need to know I'm in charge,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I need my taxes.
and I need some money. So here we
Yeah.
come. What's usually said, this is Barbarossa against the Lombard League.
Yes. At this point, though, the Lombard League is primarily Milan militia. Some of the countryside around, some of the smaller towns up and around between Milan and what is going to be Florence. And Florence is Florence at that point. I didn't want to actually misspoke there, but it's not as important as it will be in a century. So some of these other smaller towns and the Milanese and the Milanese archbishop is the one who kind of stirs it up and says, you know what, let's greet let's not be friendly when we get greeted by Frederick Barbarossa.
Yeah, Barbarossa is not exactly going to take kind to you know mistreatment.
He just he does not like rebellion. Our boy,
Yeah,
our red bearded boy does not like rebellion.
red bearded boy. He would, he'd probably kill you for saying red bearded boy,
I
but
probably would.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
all
yeah.
right, he
Hey,
can't.
but I'm
He
Barba
can't.
Blanco. I mean, what can he do?
He can't because he didn't swim. I'm poor guy. I'm just going to keep bringing it up forever. Um,
Yes.
yeah. So yeah, we have this um, rebellious force, rebel force, and down into the mix comes Barbarossa with an army.
Hmm.
Pretty fair.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, that's fair. It's at least his fifth campaign into Italy, but not all of them, like you said, not all of them have been violent. Sometimes the emperor just shows up and everybody says, yeah, we'll be good. We'll be good. When do you leave?
our,
When do you leave?"
our
You
bad.
know,
Our bad. Sorry about that.
here, take your taxes. We've been holding them for you.
We've been holding
Uh,
them. We counted them
yeah,
twice. Um,
yeah, we were going to go up and bring them to you, but the Alps are a dangerous place. You're a long way away.
yeah, we're so glad you're here to pick it up.
Yeah,
But in this
pick it
case,
up and see you later.
that's not
No,
how the response goes in this case.
no, and we don't unfortunately have enough information, I think, to know why exactly it is this time. After all these times, the that Milan could have risen up against Barbarossa, that it's this time they choose. There's some local legends around there that says that they name a few people who have said, oh, these guys are fiery, and they've been had it with the empire, and they get everybody together and so forth. But most of the time, it's just the Milan is marched through with Frederick. He shows a sign of force, goes outside, camps, collects the taxes, goes and visits others, goes down to one first time to get crowned by Hadrian IV, the Pope at the time. But there's not. Then all of a sudden, this one, the fifth time, 1176, he's been on the throne for 20 years. And suddenly the Milanese say, no, stop sign.
And yeah, but it also the battle itself happens a bit by accident.
It does, yeah.
This is I mean, not that we're not intending to fight, right? We have two armies essentially moving in the field.
Mm-hmm.
The intention is we're going to do something, but they're, at least according to the sources, the actual kind of running into each other is kind of by accident.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what to think about this because most of the time, I mean, I'm looking a little more into militia. The last few years, I've been looking into militias, and militias get raised for defensive purposes. They rarely get raised for offensive purposes. And in this situation, many times before, Milan just hasn't raised its militia. So they've got very few people in the town that are going to fight against Frederick Barbarossa. But this time they've got an army. So I think that they're a little more. This is not, just two armies out there, and oh, oops, we fell on top of each other, because it's clear the Milanese don't want Frederick there at that point. So I'm not sure. I'm not sold that this is just a surprise,
Okay.
as everybody wants it to be.
It certainly it seems at least precipitous how quickly things develop. Once the forces come within awareness of each other.
Yeah.
And it should be said. I was having this. I can't remember who it was. I was talking about this with on some podcast or something. I can't remember. Where it was expressed to me, well, how terrible these commanders were at the ability to have reconnaissance on each other, and because we see this kind of stuff. I mean, at Crécy,
Yeah.
right? Supposedly they are. Oh my gosh, they're right there. And now we got to do
Yeah.
something. But look, this is a pre-modern. There's no aerial recon, right?
No.
The topography itself. Like, walk around the town that you live in, and how far can you see, right? Oh, maybe you're on horseback. Well, you can. All right, so you're a little bit higher, right? But still, trees, hedges, the hills, the dales, all that stuff is intrinsically blocking your view and preventing you from having this sort of totality of perspective. Now, obviously, you're going to have informants, right?
Yeah.
That are going to be telling you, the locals are going to be telling you stuff. You do have writers out, but informants can be wrong. The informants can be passing on a rumor of something that they heard, not something they saw, and they don't tell it right. And there's so many different ways that this stuff can get confused that you can actually not have great awareness of where an enemy is that's only a couple miles away. Like that can happen.
Yeah.
It's weird to think about, but it can happen.
It seems like when we go back to a more organized military empire of the Romans, or even Charlemagne's empire, hey, they have signal fires, but they have signal fires to say, kind of that the Lord of the Rings, the fires on the mountains and everything. That can only tell you the big armies are coming. It can't tell you. You don't light a signal fire and say down the road 2 miles.
Right.
That's not going to happen. So and especially in this type of area when we've got one that is an unofficial army. I mean, they're militia from Milan and from some of these little small cities in the Milanese League, the Lombard League, but they don't they're not going to be looked for specifically by Barbarossa's army.
Right. Right. And so there's a question about how they're meeting up. Do we know where they met up?
Well, somewhere in a place called Legnano. There is some question about the battlefield. I know there are certain people, because we heard Dan Frank this summer say that he had been on the battlefield and looked around it. As far as I can tell, the sources aren't as clear as as we'd like them to be. We know that it's difficult. Crecy can be, the traditional site can be the right site. Agincourt can be just around the bend, and that changes the whole thing. I think it would be nice to know exactly. It appears to be in the middle of a forest in a clearing, but if we're talking about the numbers that the German chronicles are giving at this point, that there's 12,000 cavalry with Barbarossa and 30,000 infantry, they can't be in a clearing in the forest.
Right.
And I also think those numbers are a little high.
Yeah. Obviously, I always yeah. Those numbers are high, but yes, even if you cut those numbers down considerably, yeah, this isn't 100 folks meeting up in a clearing in a forest. This is major armies in the field, two of them, fighting somewhere. Yeah, it's not a clearing in the forest. It's not. Oh, we'll fight in that meadow. No, you don't.
No,
No, you don't.
no.
So
And especially with the number of cavalry that Frederick has. We could say that the town doesn't have a large number. In fact, almost everybody says they don't. Even the German sources say they don't. Uh, Militia cavalry are a little difficult to come by, even at this point in time. Frederick's brought a big number of horses. You can't do that on a meadow. You can't fight just in a little tiny meadow in the middle of a forest.
yeah, and there's also a fortification that gets involved in this, which we were trying to figure out how to pronounce, because neither, shocking to you all, neither Kelly nor myself are native Italians.
No,
Um,
no. Or
so
worse,
we were
Milanese.
Carroccio, is that right?
Carroccio, yeah.
Carroccio.
Yeah, Carroccio. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, the Milanese bring a wagon along.
So there's the Carroccio, which gets to be kind of a famous bit in this in the Battle of Legnano, as it sort of transpires, is this fortification that's also associated with the field of battle.
But it's been brought onto the field. It's not built there.
Yeah. So if it's essentially, we've talked about this before, like a Wagenburg kind of thing, that this is a field fortification built of wagons. So so it's not going to leave a lot of mark, essentially.
No, 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 not a lot of archaeology. It's curious too, because I mean, this gets returned to Milan after the battle as well, so we know that it's portable. We don't know. I don't think that there's a person who writes on this battle that has ever come up with the same idea of what this Carroccio was in in conjunction with somebody else. I think everybody says, it's a wagon, it's a town symbol. And, I had it described to me once by a professor that he thought it was more like a parade float.
A parade float.
A parade float, yeah. Yeah. So, I've got this big idea that it's pulling like Snoopy behind it or something. And then it has the local queen, princess of the margarine festival or something sitting on top of it.
That's interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Huh.
It does exist today. There's still a legend of it in Milan, and other towns also have these. So we're a little bit suspicious of what this might be and how it might have enabled Milan to fight a battle, or aided them in fighting the battle, because it doesn't fight itself. They don't take it on the battlefield and then leave and say, "Well, have fun."
Yeah. Yeah, it's some kind of, yeah. And look, we're at some point we're gonna do like the Battle of the Standard.
Hmm.
We have kind of a similar something going on. I don't know.
Yeah,
There's a whole lot of questions.
yeah. At the end of the 14th century, there appears to be one that Pavia brings on the Battle of Castigliano, with loaded with
That
guns.
one's loaded with
Uh,
guns, right? That's that big old wagon
yeah,
that's got the guns all
yeah.
around it. That is
Yeah, it's
awesome
got
sauce.
horses with guys on them because they can't fire it very fast. So, in fact, it never fires at all in the whole battle.
That thing is
But
awesome.
yeah,
That's like your
but there seems to be a
first tank.
tradition. Yeah, there seems to be a tradition of the northern Italian cities of having these symbols of power that they would take with them, and kind of like a banner, but it's a bigger thing than a banner. In this case, it may have even been a weapon. We don't know. It may have been filled with men, as you said, in Wagenburg, but we don't know. It's not well described. I mean, it's not described at all by the German chroniclers. The Milanese chroniclers just try to describe it, but they're doing so in language that is not easy that they know what it is, so they're trying to write it down.
Right. They're just like, we have such a nice Carroccio, and you're like, cool. What is it?
Cool. Yeah. What
Yeah.
is it?
And the
Who's
illustrations,
garage?
the illustrations are hilarious because
Oh, they are.
yeah,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
illustrations are like, you can tell the illustrator's got no idea what the hell they're talking about. So they're
No.
trying to like, I
No.
don't know. Here it is. It's a castle on wheels or something. You're like, nah,
Yeah.
probably not.
Even Leonardo at one point tried to draw one of these, and he's got the sides coming out of the side, and horses coming, riding within very close proximity to the whirling blades. And I think, yeah, you don't know either, do you, Leo?
Whirling blades. Yeah. So okay. So we have armies. There's one army's got this thing. Carroccio. We don't know what it is, but they've got it. We decide we kind of run into each other, or like, okay, we're gonna do this thing somewhere near Legnano. We know that is everybody refers to it proximity of Legnano, which is there today. It's a town there today. Pretty built up in that area, unfortunately. Pretty built up. So not a lot probably not a lot to find. The field, the battle space is a little bit confined by the river on one side, but we're in some sort of forest of some kind. And yeah, who decides to kind of make the moves here, Kelly? How does this proceed?
This is another one, because uh, I think everybody agrees the Germans, in this case, the imperial forces of Frederick, outnumber him, both a larger cavalry and larger army altogether. Uh, but it, but even that said, he doesn't make the first moves. I think he's still thinking that the Milanese look over, see this big army, and they're going to say, Yeah, we were just out with our parade wagon, and here's he's got the taxes for you,
Yeah.
and then they're going to give in because they're the ones that make the first move. The Milanese, the ones with the smaller force, make the first move.
Perhaps from their perspective, they sort of, if they're a somewhat irregular force, it's going to be harder to receive, an attack than it will be to deliver one. To receive an attack on the defensive requires a lot of command and control. You've got to hold. Yeah, you're scared to death, but don't turn. Like, you've got to hold. That's difficult. And with a irregular army, a lot of times you want to attack first. So it makes some sense here that the Milanese are going to attack first. And heck, if he's not expecting it, let's do it. Let's
Yeah,
go into this thing
yeah.
and
The
try and.
element of surprise, there's no question. Though and the one thing we have to always remember is the Milanese militia have very limited tactical training. So they're going to, you go forward and then you come back. That's it. Keep going forward as far as you can, then come back. That's pretty much the only maneuvers they can make. There's not a lot of, go this way and turn to the side and then turn to the next side and outflank them or anything like this. Straight on. That's what they did. Straight on.
So here they come, screaming bloody murder. I'm guessing, and coming in hot. Probably feeling good. They got a Carroccio like on the field. Like, come on now, we have staked our claim, and they come in strong. Barbarossa, this isn't his first rodeo. This is not his first rodeo. So how does Barbarossa respond to this?
Well, he responds by sending his vanguard of cavalry forward to try to meet him.
You got a bunch of guys on foot. I got a bunch of guys on horse.
Yeah, and so and according to the chronicler, the Annals of Cologne chronicler, this goes right through the Milanese. So these are experienced knights. Many of them were on the Second Crusade. Many of them have been fighting in Germany and fighting in the Balkans, and they just go right through the infantry.
Like a hot knife through butter here. Just
Pretty much.
go
Pretty
go
much.
right through. Um, so look, battle done, right? That's
Yeah, that's what they think.
that's it. And so Barbarossa wins, right? No, no,
Yeah.
is that not?
Except the Archbishop of Salerno, who is the commander on the field, he may have some experience because he said he rallies them back. He brings the infantry all back together, and now they do this stand with their pikes out and with their shields together, and they kind of form a defensive structure. It's hit and miss. We got two commands: run forward, run back, and gather together. Hopefully.
Gather together around this symbol, around the Carroccio,
Hmm. Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yes.
This thing, wagon, circle wagons, or just a wagon that's holding this big pole in the air. Whatever this thing is, this is the rallying point, right? This is our spiritual, political beaten heart. Like, rally around the flag, fellas. And yeah, this, in some respects, I don't know if we know this, but at least as I envision it, the fact that Barbarossa's cavalry sweeps so quickly through this initial line, actually kind of leaves that line able to retreat. Because like a hot knife through butter, actually a lot of the butter's still there. These guys just
Yeah.
whack
Yeah.
go right through them, and the guys that are left are like, oh shoot, we should get back to the flag. And yeah, with the rallying cry of the Archbishop, are able to do that, and now are in a position to receive that charge and have survived that first charge.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think your analysis is absolutely dead on. The cavalry that has to fight a little bit, that's the one that's going to defeat somebody, going right through them. And this happens at Campaldino as well, later on in Italy. These troops that are so good that they can defeat these militias so quickly, they're also cocky as hell. And so these guys keep riding for a while. They're probably aiming at the storage camp, maybe even aiming to hit the next town and get the booty they hope that is promised to them. And so they seem to have ridden off more than the Italians fled.
So the Italians here are able to organize back up. So this isn't a one shot and done. Like it might have been, but doesn't work out that way. And they're able to rally around this again standard this spot, the rallying flag, whatever you want to call it. Rally around it, and as you know, as Kelly said, like pikes out. Try to charge us again, dude. Like we are now prepared to receive a cavalry charge. And
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 here's
and it's not like Braveheart where if they all charge in on the horses, everybody's going to die on the spears.
Yeah, no, that doesn't happen.
Yeah,
It doesn't happen anytime.
yeah,
If you've got infantry strongly standing together, the horses don't have any place to go. Horses can't just stop. They can just stop, but they can't just go running over men. They have to go between them,
yeah. And if they do
and
just
that's what
stop,
they
the
do
rider
first.
on top does not. Um, so, in fact, somebody should write a book, Kelly, on infantry warfare.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
somebody ought to do
Somebody ought
that.
to do that.
Stick it around.
Somebody ought to do that.
I am, yes. Well, I didn't go back as far as Legnano, but this would have been a great battle to discuss because the infantry here defeats the cavalry. Now, all the German chroniclers at this point, the ones that are writing about this, that have gotten the stories from eyewitnesses to the battle, they all talk about fatigue, that the Germans are fatigued. So we don't know that they haven't been traveling for a while, or maybe it was this charge. I mean, horses can't charge and then charge and then charge. They have to have some rest in between. That may have hurt the German cavalry in this guard. But from this time on, that's it. The Italians win.
Yeah, they can't be broken.
They
Barbarossa
cannot.
tries to break them, and yeah, again, if nobody followed it, I was of course referring to the great book Infantry Warfare by Mr. Kelly DeVries, classic in the field.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
Yes.
but yeah, he didn't go back this far, but totally could have because it would have worked with everything he was saying. Because yeah, this is a once you get massed infantry that are prepared to receive a charge, it's like really super, 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 super rare to break that with cavalry charges. And so this vaunted cavalry of Barbarossa's is not going to seal the deal here. Now, why is it that Barbarossa doesn't send in his infantry components to overrun?
That seems to be up in the air. And I've even heard certain German historians say, well, he doesn't appear to have brought infantry, which would have been ludicrous. I think he would have brought infantry. He's up front. That's one of the problems. And the communication doesn't get to his infantry, it seems, because he's leading at least some of these charges because he has a horse killed underneath him, and then he disappears from the battlefield, which become a very interesting mystery we can talk about in just a moment. But I think it's a lack of communication. Simply put, and again, bringing up Napoleon later on, so what will happen at Waterloo. The infantry doesn't follow in with the cavalry charges.
Yeah, because Barbarossa himself, I just say he's right in the middle of it. He leads an attack. He swings everybody around, his cavalry, and charges right in against the Carroccio with with the plan. Well, I'm going to take care of this stuff myself, right? Let's break him, and doesn't appear to have much effect, and in fact then has the negative effect that his horse goes down and he can't be found.
No, his banner is captured. Horse goes down. There doesn't seem to be a general command that can take over when he's out of the way. At least that's the way it appears. So I'm of the opinion that the German infantry never even moves in. They move off the battlefield. They leave as soon as Frederick Barbarossa seems to have disappeared.
They think, I mean, they probably think he's dead.
Yeah,
This is not
yeah,
unlike, you kind of mentioned it at the earlier, William the Conqueror. Right, there's that pivotal moment in Hastings where, they think the rumor is, hey, he's dead, and everybody starts to retreat, and William has to actually get in front of them all, and and the Bayeux Tapestry, lift his helmet, look, it's me, I'm still alive. Oh shoot! And everybody turns around. We don't have that dramatic reveal here.
no, no.
Barbarossa is just gone, like abducted by UFOs. What, where is the
Yeah,
man? Like, where is
he's
he?
he's been beamed up to the USS Enterprise or something
Yeah,
because he just disappears. We have no idea, and this is one of the things that is most interesting. I think I find about this battle is that in the midst of the biggest melee, Barbarossa just disappears. He's just gone off the battlefield, and he does not get back to the army for a week.
yeah. We have. I can't remember which. I think it's one of the chronicles talks about like he makes it here, he makes it there. It's sort of like trying to trace his route. But the central question, like those immediate moments, nobody's got an answer to.
No, no, there's not one chronicler who says, oh, he was taken off the battlefield by his lieutenants or he was captured by the Milanese. So neither of those seem to have happened. Yeah, I mean, is he there among, wounded to the point that that he cannot, or he knocked out or something like this? And so he's sitting there among the dead and he's not recognized. We do have more heraldry at this time, 100 years after Hastings, than we would have with William. But he's the banner seems to be the principal thing that identifies him, and it's captured. So the assumption's got to be he goes with him, but he doesn't.
Yeah, yeah. No, we know they're looking for his body. Like they think he's dead. He's got to be here, right?
Yeah,
We got the banner. His horse went down. We saw that. Like everybody around him's dead. Like he's got to be here. I mean, he's not there.
yeah.
At least like a week later, he shows up.
He shows up.
He's like, "Hey,
Yeah,
what's up, boys?
yeah.
Everybody, what do we got left?"
I found this great inn in the countryside, just off
Just been relaxing.
battlefield. Had great wine.
Had a spa day.
Yeah, that would be something to know. What had happened on the battlefield initially, and then where he went, and why is he able to keep? Because he's got to be after this battle. He's got to be the most sought out person among the Milanese. The Milanese returned to the city. The banners returned with the Carroccio. They're all celebrating, and somebody said, "Well, where's the emperor?"
Yeah,
And the
no, yeah,
Germans are over there. Where's the emperor? We have no idea.
yeah. Nobody knows what happened to this dude. And it's really kind of the central moment, because when he goes down, as I said, like command and control, nada.
Nothing.
It looks like it just becomes chaos, and you get the withdrawal ultimately of the imperial forces. Not a rout.
No, no. In fact, the Milanese stay on the battlefield for quite a long time after, just making sure that they're not going to regroup and send in the infantry because they're still much smaller than the German forces that are still alive and still intact.
Right, and if
So
you don't
they,
have a cavalry to do the route yourself, right, your infantry don't chase down a route terribly well. This is again actually weirdly Hastings, is an example of this where supposedly these feigned retreats, right, to draw infantry out of shield wall or whatever kind of position they're in, right, to sort of draw them out, make them break, thinking that it's a route, and they're going to chase you down the back, turn around, and now you got them in the open field. Now you can take them out
yeah,
easy.
yeah.
Wisely,
I
the Milanese do not go chasing down.
I think they're stunned by the fact that the Germans leave. It's one of those asterisk and obelix minutes. What? It's tea time? You've left? It's tea. We're not going to fight because it's tea time. The Germans just head off, and they're still intact as an army. because this is how Barbarossa will find him in a week. Is that it's not hard to follow the fact that there's still several thousand German troops that are together looking for their emperor.
Yeah, trying to find him. Has anybody seen him? Anybody seen my boy? Um, yeah, there's I guess to be cool stories about this. There's a story about a tunnel in the area that supposedly gets used. That's how Frederick Barbarossa got away. Is he used this
Yeah,
like hidden
yeah,
tunnel and stuff.
yeah,
I mean, it's just because again, no, like none of us likes a vacuum, and human beings don't like vacuums. We fill it with stuff, and there's a vacuum here. What happens to this guy? And it's not like he's some idiot. This is like he's Frederick Barbarossa. Like
that's part of it. Yeah. And this is not. He's not young. He's not. I mean, he's 1176. He's going to die in 20 more years. So he's in his 40s. This is not his first expedition, even into Italy. But yeah, and of course, there's a there's enough sources on this battle that it's not just one source that says, "Oh, by the way, yeah, I don't know what happened to him." In the case, there's all the sources say, "What happened to the emperor? Where'd he go?" And of course, they're religious enough that they start spinning these stories. Yeah, the tunnel one is pretty preposterous, but you always end, oh, the angels have taken him off and are, at some sort of abbey somewhere close by, not sending any messages to anyone or letting anybody know. So maybe he's just joined the Benedictines in southern in
yeah,
southern.
maybe he got spirited away and is hanging out with Helena Troy.
Yeah,
Like as what happens to
making
Paris
this.
when he gets his butt kicked.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's weird. It's really weird. And but it is a kind of it's a big turning point in that this pretty much ends this attempt to put down for the emperor to put down the
yeah.
Milanese up here, and that's a
When
pretty big blow.
That is a big blow. I mean, there's no question. In fact, I've never heard anybody even question the fact that the Milanese won this battle because they're on the field still. They may have had larger losses, but they didn't. They stayed on the field. They won the field. They got the banner. They took the emperor's banner back to Milan. It's not given back to the empire for a long time. It's There's no question that they're defeated, and I do suspect because it is mentioned that his horse goes down. I suspect he could have been wounded and maybe just taken off to the side, and then somebody recognized him, and at that point, makes him a little bit more wealthy, having the emperor and taking care of him and so forth. But it's and it could likely be somebody who's bringing the dead off the battlefield, which would have been clerics of some nearby monastery. And there are several nearby monasteries, but none of them have a tradition. Not one have a tradition that says, "Oh, we found the emperor. We brought him back. We got nursed him back to health, and then he went back to his own."
Yeah, if I'm a betting man, that's where my bet is, for sure. He took a significant wound that he's like concussed or that kind of stuff, and yeah, is sort of jumbled up within when the wounded and the dying and the dead is recognized by someone who is like I'm better off helping this dude out than taking him out, and so accordingly, Frederick Barbarossa kind of gets away with it. But yeah, a major battle in Italian history. In the moment, this is a big deal, but it also kind of looms large over modern Italian history, right? This is what gets pointed to in the 19th century. This is sort of a rallying cry for many of the folks who are, creating the modern state of Italy and unifying Italy. Is sort of Legnano. Like remember that time that we came together and defeated that outside force. And so it becomes a national myth, right? A
Yeah,
formation of the national.
yeah, yeah. And in similar ways to the Courtriers to the Belgians today, or the Flemings for so long. We won. There was against the big boy, we won, and we got power. Now, Barbarossa does not return again in military with military conquest or rebellion, putting down rebellions. He follows this up with a piece even before 1176 is over, and then he follows up with another piece that's at 1178, and a third piece is 1170. I'm sorry, 1177, and the third piece is 1178. So there are the next 3 years, he basically gives in to what the Italians are demanding and leaves them alone. So you may not want to return either.
Yeah, and the final piece, I think, 1183, piece of Constance. That's the sort of like, all right, we're kind of done with this stuff. Yeah, so major sort of turning point history of the Holy Roman Empire. Major turning point, obviously, in Barbarossa's life. In Italian history, both then and now. It's a big deal battle. One we, wish we kind of knew more about in at least one particular detail. So I'm going to go ahead and preempt that right now. That's the thing that I wish I had about this battle. We often say, kind of like, well, what do you wish you had? I wish I had the bloody account of that missing time, right? That missing time. What happened? What was in there?
Even in legend, I just want, some monastery around there to have a legend. Oh, here's where Frederick slept for the week he was recuperating after the Battle of Legnano. That just doesn't exist. Or we find the tunnel. You and I got to go. Maybe that's our destination tour next summer. We go look for tunnels
Yeah,
anywhere in the Italian countryside.
I feel like we should check a lot of vineyards.
I think so. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it must be associated with.
Yeah, that's got to be. That's got to be at a vineyard. Probably in the tasting room.
And that, maybe he just fell in the grapes. They were fermenting at the right time, and he just didn't want to leave. It was a long wine tasting.
It's like, you know what? I'm just going to take my shoes off and jump in that tub of grapes and march around for a little bit. Let's do that.
Yeah.
And then after a while, he's like, you know what? I should probably go back to the be an emperor thing. Yeah. What else? What else do you wish you kind of knew about this?
Well, I mean, the big question, of course, is what happens to Frederick on this. But I'd like to know a little bit more. And the chroniclers, we do not have any eyewitness writers from the battlefield, so that may be one of the. I'd love to have an eyewitness that tells us why. We can understand why the cavalry leaves. They're fatigued. They've done their bit. Why the infantry leave the battlefield? It would be really interesting to know what was going through the minds of those commanders. Is it really that they think that the Barbarossa's dead and they're now going to go somewhere and recuperate? I'd love to have an inside look at the decision making on the infantry leaders at that battle. We don't, not a thing. I'd also like to be at the celebration, the Milan celebration. I would have loved to have been in the town. Can you imagine being in the town after
What
they
a
beat
party!
the emperor? Oh boy,
What
yes.
a party! Yeah, it would have been wonderful also to know exactly what the Carroccio looked like.
It
Here,
would be.
I'm gonna give you a description of one of them. This one of the descriptions of this. The sign that was to precede the fighters was like this: a tall antenna like a ship's mast. This is a terrible translation. It uses antenna here, but okay. Like a ship's mast, planted in a sturdy wagon and rose up high, bringing to the top a golden knob with two flaps of white hanging linen. In the midst of that, the venerable cross was fixed with the image of the Redeemer, painted with open arms, facing the surrounding ranks, because whatever the event of the war, looking at that sign, the soldiers were comforted. So this is something
Yeah.
like what we get the Battle of Standard, which is a
Yeah.
sort of wagon with a big pole stuck in it. That's gonna, like, you pull this thing out there. It's got a big flag. It's a rallying point.
Yeah. Yeah. See, they got a big flag, but the way that this has been translated, I think we need to retranslate it. It sounds like it was cutting across Milan and hit some lady's clothesline, and the
It's
linen are
got the
flying.
linens there on the
Get the
hanging off the
linen. That's all
antenna.
it is a big crucifix. That's all it really is a big crucifix with a couple of, you know, of women's attire hanging on there, something like
Yeah,
that.
it's a little weird.
It is a little weird,
But
but I think it was just a pride for the city, and then it becomes even bigger and more legendary once it's on the battlefield and sees the victory.
right, and I think it is the central thing is this wagon with this thing mounted on it. I'm liking that. I've always imagined that this becomes just a rallying point, but also that around it is essentially kind of like a Wagenburg, you're gonna have carts like around this too, right? So that it becomes also this defensive position. But look, I got who knows?
There goes my side wheels, though.
The side, yeah, Leonardo. Sorry, buddy.
Leonardo's side wheels on the Carroccio that
Sorry.
he envisions,
Probably not happening.
and a couple of really scared horses that are dragging on.
Yeah, and when you
Yeah,
really get
don't
into
back us up into the side wheels. That's it.
when you really get into this, the at the Battle of Legnano, there was also a Martinella that was associated with it. And we don't know if that's completely separate or part of this
Carroccio.
Carroccio. Exactly what it is, some kind of bell thing. But yeah, and functionally, it appears to be something they're using to signal come back now, right? Rally back here, ring the bell. Like it's basically like I always pictured as like I'm from out west, rattling the triangle, bring everybody come back to the ranch now, y'all. It's time for grub, and you hit the triangle, kind of like that. Like ring the bell, y'all get back here, get back and rally up. But yeah,
That may be the secret. I mean, it's just the simplicity of the commands to the militia. Come here, charge, come
come
back.
back?
That was it. And instead, we've got probably a structured hierarchy, and they can't do anything without an emperor giving permission on the other side. So simplicity wins out.
Simplicity
Maybe.
wins. Simplicity wins. So yeah, this is a cool battle. We wish we had some more of these details. Yeah, obviously, y'all know me. I wish I had more on the topography. But even more than that, I wish we had these stories. That'd be terrific to have. So yeah, I hope everybody enjoyed this. Hope y'all enjoyed listening to us ramble along. They're locking the doors.
Yeah. They say we can cork the wine that we haven't drunk.
Yeah, so we can take that home. It's good. Please do join us next time when we're going to be doing something new. And that is we're going to go back to a battle that we've already done. We are going to revisit the Battle of Poitiers, 1356. Pretty excited about this.
We are. We've seen the battlefield since we gave the first show. We've all gone back to the battlefield, and we've had a new piece of literature, a new piece of historical chronicle written in Italian, translated, and there's some interesting material in it. Matteo Villani. So it's going to be fun to revisit.
Yeah. So if you want to listen to our original take, that was episode 23. You can go listen to episode 23, hear what we had to say about it. And then in our next episode, you can hear what kind of we think about this now. As I said at the opening thing, this is like the stuff we're working on today, and here you're going to have.
It's true.
Yep, we said that. Now we're going to say this. So yeah, hope everybody enjoys that. And as Kelly said at the start, Q&A coming up. So the next one after that's Q&A. So you got to get those questions in ASAP. As ever, a reminder, this podcast is sponsored by medievalists.net, so the best way to support us other than buying our individual books, of course, is to join their Patreon at patreon.com/medievalists. That's also the absolute best place to drop us a line if you have a question for those upcoming Q&As. Cheers, everybody.
Happy New Year.